What's up, Met fans? Welcome back, Talkin Mets and Rob. Welcome to the first ever Mets Hot Stove live on my channel. This is going to be a weekly Mets Hot Stove live every Tuesday at 5 p.m. So hopefully everybody gets to join in to the Mets Hot Stove. First ever Hot Stove. There's been news all over the place. In a day, we had a GM. The next day, we had Syndergaard go to the Angels. We had pitchers sign, a manager candidate. So much is going on. Just the start of this week, and we're gonna get into it. 1 hour special Mets Hot Stove live on my channel every Tuesday, 5 p.m. So hopefully everybody tune in. Thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget, guys, hit on that like button. If you're new to the channel, say what's up in the chat and hit on that subscribe button, everybody. Everybody, Hayden, Gio, Captain, Cole, Webbs, Ron, Hyundai, everybody, how you guys are doing? Thank you guys for tuning in. Obviously, some people are happy about the news. We'll get into it. We'll go step by step over here throughout the hour. So, first things first, guys. As you heard yesterday, the Mets were negotiating with Billy Epler to be the Mets basically president of baseball operations slash GM. He's going to have full control of baseball operations. He won't have any influence by anybody else. I don't believe that very much, but at least I know that he's been an experienced GM with the Angels, and we do know that he is somebody that knows how to put a roster together, especially an offensive lineup. The one criticism I have of Billy Epler is that the 4.5 years he was with the Angels, he built a great lineup, but he built a terrible rotation. And that's what worries me a little bit. And that's what we're going to continue to worry about. But maybe he figured things out. Maybe he realized what he did wrong. And this is his second opportunity and probably his last opportunity to run an organization. So he gets the opportunity with the Mets. We'll see what he can do. He's not afraid to spend money, as you've seen with Adi Moreno and the Angels. He signed Anthony Rendon, gave Mike Trout the big contract, got Shohei Ohtani to come to the Angels. They signed Justin Upton. They made a lot of good moves with the offense. Once again, the pitching has been a problem with Epler. Let's see if he can change that tune with the Mets. Now, the news that we found out this morning, which was shocking to probably a lot of people, everybody was expecting Noah Syndergaard to accept the qualifying offer from the Mets, or at least find out what he was going to do. Nobody expected him to be actually take a deal from the Angels for 1 year, $21 million. Now, slowly but surely, after the morning went by and the afternoon came by, we started to get more news about what teams were involved. There was one, they didn't say what team gave what number per year for the 1 year, but the Red Sox, the Yankees, the Angels, and there was two other teams that was willing to go to that number. And it was one team that went to 1 year, $25 million. We don't know who that was, but Noah Syndergaard clearly didn't want to go to that team, even though it was more AAV for that 1 year. So it was clear that the Mets didn't want to give more than $18.4 million. They didn't believe Syndergaard was worth that money after the 2 years of injury. And I tend to agree with them, but at the same time, this puts the Mets in a hole that I saw people talking about earlier in the day when I went live to break the news. This gives Stroman all the advantage when it comes to contract negotiations. And not only is he going to raise the price on the Mets, he knows there's going to be competition for him. And that's just going to drive up the price some more. And Stroman knows that. His agent knows that. And I will not be surprised if the Mets lose out on Marcus Stroman. You know, you can't overpay for Marcus Stroman. As much as we probably need him, you can't overpay for Marcus Stroman. He is not the pitcher to overpay for. You can't, you know, he's expecting about 120 to 130 million dollars over 5 or 6 years. That's what was projected for him. You can't pay him 150 million dollars to keep him away from another team. He is not Zach Wheeler. Honestly, he's not even Syndergaard. That's the problem. That's what you guys have to worry about. Marcus Stroman, he's a solid pitcher, but as you guys know, if you follow my channel, I'm very critical of Marcus Stroman, and I don't trust him. The reason why I don't trust him, because in 2019, when we got him at the deadline, he wasn't very good for us while we were going for a wild card. In 2020, he opted out when he knew he was eligible to become a free agent in 2020 after that whole COVID situation. And that was before the Mets even knew, because remember, he got injured with his ankle, and he said, and he was coming through the process of coming back healthy. The Mets, it was like about a week and a half before the season started, and he decided to opt out when they were counting on him. So he wasn't a team player there. And now, the year when he was in his contract year, he had his best year in his career. That worries me. That worries me with every player. You've seen it with Albert Pujols. You've seen it with Justin Upton. These guys had amazing contract, amazing stats during the contract year, and their contracts were a disaster. And you've seen it time and time again. I don't want the Mets to make that mistake, even though we have the money. That's not the point. You know, the Mets have to be creative here. There's 3 pitches already off the board. There's Syndergaard off the board. There's Jose Barrios off the board. And Eduardo Rodriguez off the board. So there's 3 pitches that are off the table already. Now, what we have to do now is figure out, what do the Mets do? If you watched my video earlier about the 5 players that I expect not to be back or possibly not be back in 2022, there's 2 guys, possibly 3, on that list that could be trade bait to bring a big-time pitcher here. I talked about it in the video. The Mets might actually look back over to Cleveland and see what they can do. Maybe they can package Jose Barrios and one of their top pitchers in their rotation and give them a nice little package that involves a Dom Smith or Jeff McNeil, maybe a Ronnie Mauricio or Vientos, something like that. 3 or 4 players for those 2 players with Cleveland. That might be an option. There also might be an option when it comes to the Cincinnati Reds with Luis Castillo and maybe Eugenio Suarez, something of that nature. They might do something with that as well. The Reds are looking to get rid of Castillo. You know, the Mets can ask them to put them in a package, and we'll see how that goes. So there's options for the Mets. And I don't think the Mets have to overspend for Stroman, who is going to be probably at his best a number 3. I don't think he's going to have another year like he did last year. That's just my opinion. You might, guys, I might not agree, but I will be looking at the comments in a second, guys. I just want to go over my little rant here and my opening statements before I talk to you guys. The next thing on the list when it comes to another important thing that the Mets have to try to figure out is, who is the favorite candidate for the Mets manager? I don't know if you guys have been looking, but today was very noticeable. As soon as it seems like Epler is going to be the guy to run baseball operations, he is very familiar and very good friends with Brad Ausmus. Brad Ausmus managed the Tigers, and he managed the Angels under Billy Epler. So I'm not a big fan of Brad Ausmus. I guess he can be a good manager. I mean, he didn't do very well with the Tigers or the Angels, so I don't know where that's going to come from. But he seems like he's going to be a favorite candidate for Billy Epler. And I just hope that, and Billy Epler is known for having managers that are veterans. You know, he had Schoenweiss there for a little bit before Schoenweiss was gone. Then Epler got Joe Madden. So, and he had Brad Ausmus as well. So Epler seems like he likes experienced guys. And let's be honest, Brad Ausmus is an experienced manager. The Tigers and Angels, as I said. But I don't know if that's the guy that can run this team. Now, I could be wrong. You guys might not agree. You guys might agree. But I don't see, as bad as the front office search was, that as soon as Epler comes in, he seems like Brad Ausmus is the favorite. And I haven't heard any other names. Bruce Bochy, who I don't think is going to come here unless Sabian was here. And we all know about Buck Showalter. I honestly think it's between Brad Ausmus and Buck Showalter, in my opinion. We haven't heard about Buck Showalter, but I wouldn't be surprised in the coming days when Epler officially takes the job as baseball ops. He is going to mention Buck Showalter because I think Buck Showalter deserves an interview, and you never know, he might be a little bit more keen on analytics. He might be surprising to a lot of people, including Epler. So we have to wait and see on that one. So that is my opening statement, guys, right now. So let me check the comments. Steven, how you doing? Mark, how you doing? So let me go through the comments really quick, guys. What's up, guys? Let's see. All right. So Mark, I'm gonna throw you a comment up there. No, I'm not complaining about that. Here's the thing. There isn't plenty of pitching. I don't know where you see plenty of pitching. Now, are you just talking about free agents or are you talking about trades? Because again, we have to give up something to get a good pitcher. Luis Castillo, as I said before, you might get someone from Cleveland. You might get, there's a lot of good, there's pitchers out there, but you have to be willing to give up. I'm willing to give up prospects. I don't mind that. Too many people are worried about prospects when you got an over close to 34-year-old pitcher in Jacob deGrom who is already breaking down. You gotta get what you need right now, right here, while Jacob deGrom is still in his prime before he completely breaks down. So I don't mind that, but there ain't a lot of free agents. The free agents pitching is not that good. The best free agents on the markets are the Mets pitchers. Now there's Syndergaard, who hasn't pitched in 2 years, so you can argue he can be good or bad. We don't know. But Stroman, again, there's a lot of people that like Stroman. Be careful with Stroman because I am not paying Marcus Stroman $150 million to be a third starter. You're out of your mind. He's not that good. And he had a career year and a contract year. And the same people who want Stroman here are going to be the same people complaining during the season when he's not as good. He's not going to have a 3 ERA as he did this year. He's not. I'm sorry. He's just not. And he's too much of a loose cannon for me with this team. We had a lot of problems in this clubhouse. When it came with Baez, when it came with Lindor, when it came with McNeil. Stroman was another head case. There's too many of these guys. Could we just get players that actually play the game and play it right? Not guys who are just a pain in the ass every day, who are always in the media. I don't want to hear that shit. I don't want to hear that. I'm sick and tired of these whiny players that give thumbs down, that does this. Stroman complains. He starts arguments with other teams for no reason. And the same thing with Baez. When he came over to the Mets, he had the problem with the Marlins right away. Stop enticing these teams because we're not good enough to be acting like we've been there before, because we haven't been there before. And it's the same thing over and over again. I want this team to be smart about what they do in free agency, make smart trades, get players in here who are no-nonsense guys who plays the game. Not saying Stroman hasn't been good. He was good 1 year. 1 year, guys, with the Mets. 1 year. And everybody's bowing down and making him the best pitcher in baseball. Honestly, I mean, if you've seen across the league guys who pitched well or played well in a contract year, gets a big contract and never have the same season after that. And now we're going to have to pay him for 6 years as a number 3 starter. And he's only going to get older. So is he going to be good for be a 3 starter for the rest of his career or the rest of the contract? I doubt it. go through the other con. Let's see. Hayden, yeah, exactly. Epler comes and then the Angels take him. So it was a big Angels day. Angels was in the news a lot with the Mets. I mean, it is what it is, Look, I don't know if it's the Major League Baseball, if the owners are actually like blackballing Steve Cohen because they didn't like how he did things the first time with the. I don't know, but you know, we have to wait and see with that. You know what? Like I said, there's free agents out there, especially offensive players. There's not a lot of pitchers out there that are that good. I know Gausman's out there. Do you trust a guy who finally had a good season in a contract year, no less, as well? We don't have to talk about Stroman. We can talk about Gausman too. He was a journeyman pitcher. He was an okay pitcher. Had a great year with the Giants, and now he's gonna make tons of money. And I think, in my opinion, guys, we have to be careful with that. And like I said, Epler's known for spending money. Cohen got money. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets Brian in here, if he gets Baez in here. It's looking like the Tigers might get Correa. I mean, the Tigers are bringing out all the stops. They're spending money. I mean, they gave $77 million for Eduardo Rodriguez, who had an over 4 ERA for the Red Sox. I mean, geez. So, just think, Eduardo Rodriguez got $77 million over 4 years, if I'm not mistaken, or 5 years. I'm not sure exactly the year, but he got $77 million. Stroman had a way better year than Eduardo Rodriguez. What do you think he's going to get? So, I mean, it's crazy to me. It's so much money. Cole, that's interesting. But again, I think both of them are question marks, honestly. Mark, I do have a clue. You don't have a clue. You have Gausman and Stroman. Can you name a pitcher? I mean, give me names. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Right? Give me a pitcher that's actually worth putting in this rotation. You got to remember, who's your number two? You're going to put Carlos Carrasco at 35 years old as your number two starter? You got Taijuan Walker, who showed he fell apart in the second half. You got Tyler McGill, who is okay at best, who had a good game here and there. And what free agent pitcher besides Gausman and Stroman, any pitcher they can? I'm not talking about a number 4 and number 5 pitcher. Obviously, the Mets can get that. We have to be concerned about a number 2, maybe even a number 3. Stroman does fit that bill. Not that I like him, but he is consistent. But can he be consistent? I'm not expecting Stroman to pitch the way he did in 2021. But can he pitch with a 3.5 ERA and pitch every 5th day? He pitched 33 games this year. He pitched great. But again, when it comes to Gausman and Stroh, yeah, you can say that. But again, Gausman has not pitched well throughout his career. Maybe he found it with the Giants. Maybe he did. Who knows? Stroman did pitch well with the Toronto Blue Jays. He had really good years. But his best year was last year with Stroman. So there's a lot of things that you can look at. Like I said, both of these guys are going to get over $100 million. I mean, we know what Stroh, we know Stroh because he pitched for us. We don't know a lot about Gausman because he pitched for the Giants. So, if you're on the East Coast, you probably didn't watch Gausman as much. You just seen his numbers and seen him in the playoffs. So there's a lot of things. Like I said, I wouldn't be against either one of them, maybe both of them, but that's probably not going to happen. I mean, the Mets weren't willing to give Noah Syndergaard $21 million, which I agree with. It's a little insane to me. Yeah, because the Mets weren't going to give Noah $21 million. It's just that simple. You don't think the Mets heard the rumors about the other? There was 5 teams going after Noah Syndergaard. They knew the other teams were going to go after him. The Mets weren't going to give Noah Syndergaard $21 million. I'm telling you that right now. A guy who hasn't pitched in 2 years, who couldn't throw a curveball or a slider when he came back, and you're going to give him $21 million. Again, it's 1 year. I think it could have been a risk willing to take, but I don't think the Mets wanted to give more than that. I know it's only, $2.6 million more than a qualifying offer, but again, it is what it is. Like I said, Noah Syndergaard wanted to be here, right? He talked about if the Mets give him a qualifying offer, he's going to take it. Clearly, he didn't think so. He didn't take it. So that's what happens. But Mark, you keep on telling me I don't know what I'm talking about, but you still haven't given me pitchers that are on the free agent market that the Mets can get. I'm just curious here. And let's be honest, guys. Noah Syndergaard knew what the Mets were willing to give him, right? When they gave the qualifying offer, they had 5 days of exclusive negotiating rights with Noah Syndergaard. Clearly, Noah Syndergaard knew what the Mets were going to give him. Noah Syndergaard went elsewhere after that negotiating period and find out what he can get more of. He was clearly getting more what the Mets were given. That was it. He didn't have to go back. He already spoke with the Mets. They had the right for 5 days to speak with Noah Syndergaard exclusively with no other team that can get involved. Noah Syndergaard knew that the Mets were going to go over the qualifying offer. That's it. John, it's possible. I mean, we'll have to wait and see. I feel like Baez is going to be here, but seems like it's possible. It's probably a bigger possibility than most. People early on wanted Correa. I don't see that as a fit because I don't think he wants to play third base. And it looking like the Tigers, if they get the years right, will actually probably get Correa. So the Tigers are ready to go. I guess so. Alrighty, Cole. Do you like Epler? I mean, yeah, I guess. I know we can spend money. But that's not always a good thing. We've seen that with the Angels. I guess I'm excited because they finally got somebody in the front office that can actually make moves. Because it seems like the Mets are behind this offseason yet again. Last year, Cohen came a little bit after. It took him a little longer to become the owner. So then that was the case with that the Mets missed out on certain things and it hurt the Mets. So I don't know. I don't know what Epler. I really don't. He didn't do nothing with the Angels. They didn't make the playoffs in his tenure. So, he gave Mike Trout a $500 million and, didn't put much around him. Justin Upton, Anthony Rendon, I thought was going to be a good signing. He's had injuries with the Angels as well. So at this point, I guess we just have to wait and see with him. But I don't think he's shy in spending money. And I just hope that he can fix his mistakes that he had with the Angels and actually work on getting pitching. Because, this pitching staff right now is not exactly what you want to go into the season with, which I don't think they will. All right, let's see what else we have. Doyle was no good at holding base runners. Yeah, true. But it really depends. If Noah Syndergaard can come back healthy and he can pitch with his curveball, slider, fastball, and he can use all those pitches with his changeup, if he learns how to be a pitcher and not just a flamethrower, he can probably be good. Like I said, I think it's a low risk, high reward for the Angels. Like I said, the Angels just spend money all the time anyway. So $21 million is not going to hurt them. So, they're trying to catch lightning in a bottle. Basically the Mets paid Noah Syndergaard for 2 years to rehab, basically. So the Angels can reap the benefits. We don't know. But again, it's a 1-year deal. If Noah Syndergaard looks to be, pitches well, maybe the Mets sign him in 2022 or at the end of 2022. You never know. He'll be a free agent again. So, Noah Syndergaard can't get a qualifying offer again because he was already offered it, and you can only get it offered once in your career. So, we'll see. What else we got? Yeah. John, Boston is interested in Baez, which is a little weird. You know, they got Bogarts. They got Devers at third. I guess second base. I guess, but we'll see. It seems like Boston was aggressive for Syndergaard, so they're in the hunt. They gotta be careful too, because I wouldn't be surprised if the Mets, I'm sorry, if the Yankees, you know, spend some money this year getting their shortstop that they've been needing for a while. And again, with Stroman, there's going to be a lot of players, involved with Stroman, and I think the Yankees are going to be involved in Stroman as well. So we'll see about that too. Let's see what Hayden's got to say. I feel Epper can be good for contracts and signing extensions. Yeah, he has a good history. Exactly. Yeah. Like I said, I'm not worried about Epler spending money, probably getting the bats in here. Like I would not be surprised at the end of the offseason, the Mets end up with Bryant, might end up with Baez, and a big time starting pitcher from a trade. And I wouldn't be, I mean, is that a great offseason? Yeah, I guess so. I want to see Bryant. I don't see why the Mets, I don't know if Bryant wants to be here, honestly. He is a West Coast guy, even though he played for Chicago, but he is a West Coast guy. He's from the West Coast. So it really depends. But I mean, the Mets can give him as much money as he wants, honestly. So we just have to see. Look, I think Chris Bryant is the perfect guy for this team because what he can do is be versatile. The Mets can get Chris Bryant and be like, all right, who else is out there as a free agent or in a trade, for third base, for right field, for even left field for that matter. And then you can decide, all right, you know what? Wow, look at this. Marte's available. Perfect. Maybe the Mets can try to get Marte, put him in center field, move Nimmo to left or right, or probably right field, and now you got Chris Bryant at third base. That solidifies your lineup. Who knows what's going to happen with Dominic Smith? I mean, are the Mets going to have a crazy offseason like the Yankees did in 2009 and 2009? When they brought in Sabathia and Burnett and all them guys and Teixeira and all those guys and won them a championship? I mean, do you really have to do that? I don't know. But, I don't know what Cohen's going to do. I don't know what Epler's going to do, but I do know Epler can spend money. And it's just a matter of spending the money smartly because that's what you have to do. You can spend all the money you want. You end up like the Angels, that don't make the playoffs with the best player in baseball year after year. Merlin, I understand what Marte, like I said, I'm not against Marte, but if you're going to get Marte, he's going to be 34 years old and he's probably looking for a 4-year deal. And that means if you're going to get Marte, now he's still good. He's still got his speed. He's still good defensively. He definitely can hit. We saw it with the Marlins and we seen him with Oakland when he got traded there. He's 34 years old. And to put him in center field for 4-5 years, whatever the contract's going to be, is you're risking putting him in center field and expecting him to have, even if he gives you 2 good years in center field, now you got to move him to a corner outfielder, and once again, you have no center fielder. Yeah, you could put Nimmo there, but let's be honest, in 2 years, Nimmo's going to be a free agent. So there's a lot that has to be talked about with that. So I don't think Marte's a smart move, honestly. I'd rather just keep Nimmo in center field, get Chris Bryant. If you want Chris Bryant in right field, he can play right field. And I don't think that's going to be a problem. And, I feel like the Mets are going to make a big trade. Excuse me, guys. I feel like the Mets are going to make a big trade, and I think it's going to probably involve the third baseman. And I'm not sure why I have that gut feeling, but it just feels that way. That's what I'm saying. And exactly, vintage. I was just going to mention that. I did a video about it about a week ago. Karen, how you doing? All right. So, vintage, thank you. So, Suzuki, who is the Japanese outfielder who is 27 years old, who is a power bat. It's very good defensively. He can play third, he can play short, and he can play corner outfield. He is an interesting player in this whole situation. The Mets have scouted him. The Mets know about him. I did a video about him. I wouldn't be surprised if the Mets, because remember, these guys, when they get posted, you don't have to put a big fee to pay the team. Now, what's involved in it is the Mets can give, like a Shohei Ohtani deal. They're not going to give a 9-year deal plus, a big pile of money to the actual team. So the rules have changed. So, he's probably, he can probably get 4 or 5 years, probably about $30 to $45 million or something like that. So I like Suzuki. I'm not going to sit here and say I watched Suzuki because I haven't. But before I did my video a week ago, I was looking at video. I was watching a few games because I'm curious. He got a great swing, and he doesn't swing very hard, but the power off his bat is amazing. He's got speed, which is nice. And like I said, he's versatile. He has that Chris Bryant feature where he can play third base, he can play shortstop, he can play corner outfield. So there's a lot of options with Suzuki as well. Obviously, you're probably not going to put him in third base, even though he can play there. He can play the corner outfield, and that is an option. Vintage, thank you for bringing that up. And what Vintage said, Suzuki, Bryant, Stroman, and another back end starter via trade. That's a decent offseason. It's not a bad offseason. If you get Stroman, you got DeGrom, you got Stroman, you got Carrasco, you got Walker, and you got Tyler McGill. That's your 5 right there. You're not including if David Peterson comes back healthy as well. That is your 6th starter. You're probably going to have to get another starter just in case of an injury. So that's a pretty good offseason, honestly. But, we still have to remember we need a bullpen as well. Familia is gone. Who knows with Loop, because the Phillies are in on Aaron Loop as well. And I don't think the Mets can lose Aaron Loop to the Phillies. I think they better get him. I don't know if it's going to be a 2 or 3 year deal, but Aaron Loop needs to be in his bullpen. I'm telling you that right now, guys. The Mets cannot lose Aaron Loop to the Phillies. And that would be a freaking disaster. We already lost Wheeler to the freaking Phillies. I mean, granted, the Phillies didn't make the playoffs, but they did have an MVP candidate in Harper. And Zach Wheeler was basically the ace of the staff of the Phillies. So, Steven, let me see. Vintage also Baez, correct. Oh, yeah, they wanted Buxton, but it was something with his contract or something like that. It was like a sign-in trade. I mean, the Mets could do that, but again, Buxton is very injury prone as well. So you got to take that in consideration. And the Twins are probably going to want a lot for him. Steven, Rob, why did they put Brian in right and trade for Donaldson? I mean, that's a possibility as well. The only thing Don don't like about Donaldson is that he has a hip injury, and he's 31 if I'm not mistaken. Oh, I'm not 30. I'm sorry. He's like 32, 33. I'm sorry. Of the Twins. I'm sorry about that. He does have a lot of money on his contract. And, I know the Mets were close to getting him last year before they got Baez, but to take on that contract with somebody who's over 30 years old, and he's good, but I don't know. I wouldn't do that. I'd rather get Bryant and work on getting either Suzuki, get Marte, or you can probably get somebody else. There's a lot of guys out there. So, there's outfield options this year as well. I don't, the Mets just can't get one big player and keep McNeil, keep Dominic Smith, keep JD Davis. Even though I do think JD Davis will be interesting because in my video, excuse me, that I posted today, I think JD Davis can be a perfect DH. And as we all know, the DH is probably going to be in the new CBA. So, if that happens, I think JD Davis, remember, he was injured because he got hit in the first series of the year against the Phillies in his wrist, and he had problems throughout the whole year. So I think he can hit 25 home runs easily if he stays healthy. So that's what I want to see. That's what I think that can happen. JD Davis might be the one on his team because I think Dominic Smith has value as a first baseman. And there is first basemen that are needed with a lot of teams. And Dominic Smith is kind of useless at this point. He's not a left fielder. As much as we wanted him to be out there, we put him in left field not because he was defensively sound. It was because we thought he was going to hit, and he didn't. And I don't know if it was an adjustment that the pitchers made against him, and he couldn't adjust, or I don't know. But I think Dominic Smith can be a nice trade piece for a team to play first base every day. Jeff McNeil, the same thing. I think Jeff McNeil can go back to that 300 hitter situation. And I think there's a possibility that the Mets can possibly trade Jeff McNeil. I mean, how many times over in 2019 and 2020 and last year, how many times Jeff McNeil was supposed to be in a deal? He was supposed to be in that deal with Kalenic when it came to Cano and Diaz, which was already a disaster of a trade. I mean, Kalenic would have been out center fielder already, and Nimmo would have been a corner outfielder, and you would have been basically set in the outfield, and you just probably needed a left fielder or a right fielder, depending on where you wanted Nimmo. So I think the Mets are going to make one big trade. Either it's going to be for an outfielder, for a pitcher or a third baseman or both, and then make one big sign. I'm not going to count Baez as a big signing because if the Mets get Baez, they're getting their own player back. So you put him at second base, great. Now you have nowhere to put McNeil. So, and I don't like McNeil at third base is why I think McNeil is going to be gone. And maybe the Mets will probably get Chris Bryant. Put him at third base or put him in the outfield, then make a trade for a pitcher. Like I said, Castillo is out there. I like Castillo. And if the Mets can try to get him away from the Reds, I'll do that in a heartbeat. No doubt about it. Thank you, Jose. Sorry. It's not a terrible trade. I mean, Dominic Smith value is down. So I guess Kyle Hendricks is nice. We talked about him with Baez. Oh, in the Baez trade that Kyle Hendricks could have came in that deal. Yeah, I guess. I mean, he's not a wild pitcher. He can be a number 4 in the rotation. But yeah, I mean, it's not a bad trade. Yeah, Merlin, that would be nice to get a good pitcher at the deadline. But, as we've seen with the Mets over the years, they can have a really bad first half and put themselves in a big hole. And at the deadline, they can get a big pitcher or get a big bat. And now they have to fight their way in the second half. And I rather do all you can now in the off season and to put that one little piece or that that bullpen arm that you needed at the deadline or maybe that extra back of the rotation starter that you need to solidify your rotation for the second half. That's what you want to do at the deadline. You don't need big pieces at the deadline every time. There's guys out there that you can put in this team now to start the year. The names. There's a lot of guys out there that can make this lineup and this roster very, very good. And if the Mets have a good first half, now they don't have to go crazy in the second half, making these, giving away prospects all over the place at the deadline to get the guys they need to get through the second half. The Mets, I think the Mets did a terrible job this year. Yes, you can say, we lost Jacob deGrom and that killed second half. Yeah, absolutely. But, okay, Merlin. So, what the Mets did this year is exactly what I don't want them to do. They traded for Lindor. They signed Lindor. Great. They didn't get none of the three big players. They brought in James McCann, who was a disaster. I mean, they got Baez at the deadline. It wasn't nothing. They got Taijuan Walker in the rotation. Obviously, Carrasco came in the Lindor trade. What I don't want to see again, and again, Epler is here now, so it might be a little different at the trade deadline. He is an aggressive guy at the deadline, so that's good to see. Is that what Sandy Alderson did? He had the opportunity to get Baez and Bryant. And remember, at the trade deadline, the Mets were still 3.5 games in first place before the deadline. And what happened was the Braves played that 5-game series against the Mets. They took the series. The Mets had a problem right before the All-Star break with the Pirates. Came back after the All-Star break against Pirates, had a problem with them, and then the trade deadline happened. The Mets had a couple of game lead at the deadline. The Mets could have got a starting pitcher, not Rich Hill. They could have got a number 2 and number 3. They could have got Chris Bryant and Baez. And they didn't. They let Pete Crow Armstrong go to the Cubs when the Mets could have got Chris Bryant and Baez, but they didn't want to make that move because they weren't sure about deGrom's health. So you don't make a trade based on somebody who is not pitching right now. So what you told your team was, we don't believe in you without Jacob deGrom. And if you told the Braves, hey, Acuna is hurt the rest of the year. You lost Ozuna from domestic violence. You have no outfield. I think you should, wave the white flag and just give the year up. What do? They got Duvall. They got Rosario. I mean, they got 4 players, 4 outfielders to solidify their outfield and get an extra guy for the bench that plays outfield, multiple positions. What did they do? They won the World Series. You know why? Because their front office believed in their team, even with their best player in Acuna out for the rest of the year. And their number 1 starting pitcher, Soroka, out for the rest of the year. Granted, they had Fried. Granted. But they believed in their team. They trusted their team. And they went out and got the players they needed to fix their outfield. The Braves went on a run the second half, took over the division, and never looked back. What did the Mets do? They got Javier Baez and Rich Hill. Great. That's what they did. Now, when we got Baez didn't come right away and start lighting it up like Yoenis Cespedes did, which the Mets had a better lineup this in 2021 than they did in 2015. Let's be honest. But Baez struggled. He was striking out at an all-time rate. He got injured, came back, and then was the MVP candidate that we saw with the Cubs when he came back from injury. But at that moment, it seemed like it was too late. That 13-game stretch in the West Coast against the Giants and Dodgers was a complete disaster and basically took us out of the running. Even though in September, when we had a chance to face the Cardinals, And if we would have took the series, we would have been about a game and a half out of the wild card spot. But the Cardinals took off. So again, guys, that's the biggest problem. Soler, exactly, Naya. Noya. Freddie, thank you. But that's what the Braves did. They trusted their team. They did what they had to do with the front office. In the front office, they made the trades that needed to be done. They weren't great players. They got Soler, who was the MVP of the World Series. They got Rosario. They got Duvall. They got an outfield. These guys weren't great players. They were good players, solid players that just boosted that team and gave that team confidence. And sometimes if you're a front office and you show confidence to your team, good things can happen. We saw it with the Mets. The Mets needed a power bat in that lineup in 2015. The Sandy Olson and the Mets are trying. They tried with Justin Upton. They tried with Jay Bruce. And then they ended up getting Cespedes. It gave the confidence to the team they needed that the front office believed in us. And now it's time to get going. And they did. They took off after that in the deadline, beat Washington up, took the division, got to the World Series. Unfortunately, they lost. So that's exactly what the Braves did. And the Mets have to realize sometimes you can do what you have to do in the offseason. But when it comes down to believing in your team during the deadline and making that right move that you need, everything can change in the second half. And that's what I believe, guys. That's exactly what I believe. So to recap, guys, once again, the Angels did sign Noah Syndergaard for 1 year, $21 million pending physical. I haven't looked at Twitter. I don't know if he was supposed to do his physical today. And if he passed it, he's an Angel. And what is interesting, there was a few things on. I think it was Ken Rosendahl that said that if Noah Syndergaard wanted to either get a deal by today, so we can get the physical today. So if he fails the physical, he still has time to take the qualifying offer from the Mets. So I didn't see on Twitter yet that he passed his physical. And if he did, then he's an Angel. But in all likelihood, he's going to pass his physical. So, yeah, I haven't seen nothing yet. But again, Noah Syndergaard, 1 year, $21 million. There was a couple of teams going after him. A couple of teams gave the same amount of money in year, 1 year, $21 million. And there was one team that I still don't know who it is, offered 1 year, $25 million. I don't know if that was a team that was contending or what, but Noah Syndergaard didn't want to go there for whatever reason. And the candidate for the Mets, there was a report that Billy Epler is very good friends and likes Brad Ausmus because he had him as the Angels manager, and Ausmus was the manager of the Detroit Tigers as well. Obviously, none of them really did very, very well with Ausmus at the helm, but Epler likes Ausmus. Ausmus looks like a favorite candidate to be the Mets manager. We'll wait and see about that. Again, I wouldn't get excited about that, but he's not a bad option. He has experience in the dugout. It's not a first-time manager, which I'm sick of. I'm sick of the Callaways. I'm sick of the Rojas's of the world. I don't want first-time managers anymore. I want somebody that has experience in a major league dugout. Ausmus does have that. What qualities he has, I don't know yet. It's not like I watched all the Angels games or the Tigers games when he managed those teams, so I'm not going to tell you something I don't know. But it seems like Epler is a fan of Ausmus, so we'll see how fast that materializes when Epler officially signs his deal to become president of baseball operations / GM. Once again, guys, please hit on that like button if you're new to the channel. Hit on that subscribe button, guys. First time Mets Hot Stove live on my channel, guys. We're going to do this every Tuesday at 5 p.m. throughout the off season, giving you all the latest news, all the breaking news, possible rumors, everything you need to know about the Mets during the week or whatever happened. Clearly, a lot happened in just 2 days with the Mets, so expect a lot of news over the next couple of months before spring training happens. So hopefully, our Mets actually make some big splashes because they need to. 3 big pitchers already off the board. Eduardo Rodriguez signs with the Detroit Tigers. Jose Barrios signs with the Toronto Blue Jays. And as I just said, Noah Syndergaard signs with the Angels 1 year, $21 million. So 3 pitches off the board in the early offseason. There is about 2 weeks until the CBA is up on December 2nd. I did state this about a couple of weeks ago that I think a lot of players are going to sign before the CBA ends because there's a lot of things up in the air, and I don't think not a lot of players want to not have contracts before the CBA because you never know what could happen. There could be a lockout, there could be a strike for a while. We just don't know. And I don't think players want to be in limbo with their contracts. Let's see. Karen, I hope 2022 is better as well. Let's hope. Let's see. What else we got? Merlin, we can use that money for Stroman. Yeah, we could use that money for Stroman. But again, I'm not willing to give Stroman $150 million. It's crazy. But crazy to me. I think that's way too much money for a guy who's going to be a number 3 starter. But again, he is one of the best pitchers on the market that's left with Gausman. So maybe the Mets will get one of them. I'd rather stick to the guy that we know than getting the guy that we don't really know. And Gausman, I don't know much about. The Mets might. But again, Gausman was in middle of the rotation starter. And he was an ace for the Giants last year. So Gausman and Stroman is the only 2 guys that I'd be willing to go $100 million on, because they deserve it. It's that obvious. So, unless the Mets got something up their sleeves when it comes to trades with Castillo of the Reds, we'll wait and see with that. But I do think the Mets are going to make a big trade and 2 signings, in my opinion, and a couple of small signings here and there. I think the Mets' priority is got to get Aaron Loup back in this Mets bullpen. You can't let him go to the Phillies. Got to get another arm in his bullpen to fill a spot that Familiar is gone because he ain't coming back. Edwin Diaz is going to be here. Trevor May is going to be here. We'll see about Gesellman. So, again, it's possible that I think Cohen's going to spend money this year, guys, and it's really that simple. It's just a matter of, Baez seems like there's like a 90% chance he'll be back with the Mets. He might even take a little bit of a discount to come back to the Mets. I think he liked it here. Let's hope. The Mets can't just get Baez and get a pitcher, even if it's a number 2 or a number 3, and call it an offseason. Because that means you're going to come back with Dominic Smith and you're going to come back with somebody playing third base, either McNeil or Davis. And you can't do that. I think you need at least Baez and another big-time free agent. Chris Bryant, Castellanos. Pick your poison. Marte. Somebody big. They need a third. They need another big bat. If they do that, then they can decide what they're going to do with McNeil and Dominic Smith and J.D. Davis. And possibly, like I said, being in a trade. All right, let's see. Got about 5 minutes left until I call it a night, guys. But like I said, the Mets, I think they spent too much time worrying about, they spent about 6-7 weeks trying to get a front office. And I think that put them behind the eight ball when other teams were basically having meetings, talking about players they're going to get or sign. And, Sandy Olson was the guy that was talking to himself in the mirror, basically. And nothing was done. He offered qualifying offers to the players that he offered qualifying offers for. And that's all he did. So maybe we can, hopefully Epler by, I guess, Thursday or maybe even tomorrow, he'll be officially signed and he can get things moving because we can't wait any longer. Like I said, 3 pitches are already gone. Players are going to sign before the CBA. There's no doubt about that. And I think the Mets got to take advantage of that. Spend Cohen's money. Spend their money. We got to spend his money. I want Chris Bryant here. My off season. Let me tell you before I go. This is my off season that I want. I want Chris Bryant. I want Javier Baez. Pick your poison when it comes to Stroman or Gausman. Either one. I'd rather have Stroman. So, Bryant, Stroman, and Baez. And then I think the Mets are going to make a big trade for another big pitcher. That's just me. So, that's what you can say right there. But I feel like Stroman, Baez, Bryant. That's a pretty good offseason. That's a hell of a lot better offseason than 2021. Vintage Kyle Seager. He's up there in age. I mean, he's not terrible. But, I mean, you want a stopgap for Brett Beatty, who is possibly going to be up here in 2023, as good as he's been. And he's been killing it in winter ball. MLB Joey. Baez, Marte, Ray. Robbie Ray scares me as well. Marte, I don't know about Marte. He's 33, going to be 34. I don't know about that. I don't know about Marte. I put him in center field like that. Yeah, Miguel will be in number 5. That's fine. Robbie Ray, what is he going to be, like a number 3, number 4? He had a good year. He's going to probably get over $100 million as well. He had a really good year. But, at the current moment, with the rotation now, it's Jacob deGrom, Carlos Carrasco, Taijuan Walker, Tyler McGill, and pick your 5th starter. David Peterson. Put him in there. That's your starting rotation right now. ML Joey, exactly. Like we talked about that earlier in the stream. I wouldn't be surprised if the Mets get involved in the trade for Castillo with the Reds. Excuse me. Maybe take a chance on Eugenio Suarez, even though he hasn't been good over the last 2 years. He had a really good 2019, but didn't play well last year. He didn't hit for average. He hit for power, but that was about it. He's very good defensively at third. But again, Luis Castillo, you're trading for a guy who has, I believe, a year left on his contract. How much are you willing to give up for a 1-year rental? That's another thing. So we just got to wait and see, guys. So once again, guys, thank you guys for tuning in. The first ever Mets Hot Stove Live on Talking Mets with Rob. I really do appreciate everybody tuning in. Don't forget, guys, every week at 5 p.m. on Tuesday, Mets Hot Stove Live here on the channel every Tuesday throughout the entire off season. So keep on tuning in every day, every Tuesday, guys. While I'm live, we'll talk about what has happened and what has not happened. By next week, Epler will be involved. With he would be signed with the Mets, so he might be making some moves. We'll wait and see. There's nothing with qualifying offers anymore. All that's done with because Noah and Michael Conforto declined Syndergaard to the Angels, so we don't got to worry about that. So once again, guys, thank you guys for tuning in. Mets Hostel Live, Talking Mets and Rob here. Hit that like button, guys. If you're new to the channel, hit on that subscribe button. Please check out the video that I posted earlier today about the 5 possible players that I don't think might not be on this team in 2022 and why. I tell you why, and I rank them from 1 to 5. And I tell you why they can possibly still be here and why they would not be here. So check that out, guys. I really do appreciate it. I'll see you guys next week. Thank you guys for tuning in. And as always, let's go Mets, guys. Have a good night, guys.